Hello and welcome. Let me tell you what we're going to do today. I'll be presenting for 35-40 minutes. It'll be full on, take notes. At the end of that time, I'll call for questions. If you have questions in the meantime as I'm speaking, just make a note of your question. And when it's time for questions, type it in and I'll do my very best to answer each and every question. If perchance there are too many, rest assured that I will contact you and fully answer your question. Thank you. All right, let's begin. I'm Judith Richards, and you are here at the webinar, The Rage and Guilt of PTSD, How to Resolve It. So that I know who I'm talking to, would you mind just typing in why you're here, if you're a psychotherapist, a psychologist, a counsellor, social worker, medico, member of the public who has PTSD issues. No point in raising your hand because I won't be able to get to you. If you just type in what you're doing, psychotherapist, somatic psychotherapist, psychologist, excellent, counsellor, coach, midwife. Oh, I love midwives. OT, fabulous. You do great work. Osteo-hypno, great, Alison. Clinical psychologist. Hey, Peter, psychologist, great. Wonderful. Teacher, great. Avan. Avan? I don't know how to say that properly. Avan. Psychologist. Okay. Social worker. Excellent. Few social workers here. So practical. Love social workers. Avan, I got it right. Thank you, Avan. Hypnotherapist who saw me in Perth January 17. Great. Helen, psychologist. Wonderful. So some of you haven't met me before. Let me just introduce myself very quickly and tell you what actually gives me the right to stand up here and talk about PTSD and trauma. Who am I, after all? My name is Judith Richards. I'm the creator of the Richards Trauma Process, or TRTP. What gives me the right to talk about trauma and PTSD is I've lived it. Lived experience, that most basic of experiences. I know trauma and PTSD. I know it upside down, inside out, from every angle. I know it because I've lived it. And as we know, PTSD is a spectrum. There's mild up to extreme. So I was one of those lucky ones that hit the jackpot with very extreme. So I went through an extreme PTSD breakdown in which I lost my mind. We'll get to that in a little while. So what led me to that PTSD experience? What led me to be stuck at that very heightened living response? Well, I'm the youngest of 8. I lived in a rather dysfunctional family. I was Catholic, so I know all about being chased around sacristies and chased around various rooms by priests. I was then schooled by nuns, and there was a particular nun who took a very big interest in me, shall I say. So there was assault there and sexual abuse. So lots of things happened. Wherever I went, I attracted violent lunatics from when I was a very small child. By the time I was a teenager, I used to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Judith. I attract violent lunatics. What can I say? It's a gift. And that became the story of my life. And I'll explain to you how that happens. Well, I'll explain it to you now, actually. Even before we're born, particularly in the 3rd trimester in utero, we take on ideas of who we are, if we're safe, if we're wanted, if we're loved. And then we're born. For some people, birth itself is a life-threatening experience. And some people are born into less than celebration. Even for those of us who are born into celebration, things happen. And we take on ideas. It's like our unconscious gets branded with these ideas from even before we're born up until we're 7, 8 years old. Ideas such as, I don't matter. Ideas such as, anyone who's supposed to love me will hurt me, will abandon me. Ideas such as, and I'm going to swear, I'm shit and I deserve to be treated like shit. Mine, because I was a good Catholic girl and bad things happened to me, and I was told it was my fault. What did I do to that good man of God to make him do that to me? And I was very impressionable. And then going to grade 1 with the nuns and being held up by the shirt collar in front of Jesus on the cross and being told, your sins put him there, your sins nailed him to the cross. I took it on. I was such a good little Catholic girl. So I took on the idea, I'm evil, I deserve to suffer, and I deserve to be punished. And what happens then is those ideas that we take on at that young time. You know, some people take on, I'm stupid, I'll never amount to anything, I'm not enough, I'll never be good enough, everything's my fault. So what happens is their unconscious core beliefs run everything. So wherever I went, it was like I had a big sign on my head, get your meat here. Victim. It's interesting that once we change those unconscious core beliefs that are not helpful, when we change those to the positive, everything changes. The dynamics of our relationships change. Who we attract into our life and who's attracted to us change. The situations we create change. Everything changes. So that was my platform. And my life was built on those branded ideas, branded into my unconscious, and I lived out that experience. I worked my way up through stalkers and various violent events until I hit the jackpot with a homicidal psychopath who was into torture, actually. That lasted for 9 years. Lots of things happened. Lots of things happened before that. Lots of things happened after that. But at the end of that time, I went through a lot of surgery because I had a lot of injuries. At the end of all those surgeries, the doctors told me that I'd be in chronic ill health and chronic pain for the rest of my probably pretty short life. And I thought, you don't know me. For various reasons, I came through. I came through in order to help my family. After a while, having experienced PTSD for years, I didn't know it was PTSD. I just thought I had a massive rage problem. And in hospital, I was always in trouble because even though I was hooked up to all tubes, because everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong, if I went to sleep, which I tried not to, I would immediately have very violent nightmares, and I would get up, as I always did in my sleep, and even while I was asleep, I would get up screaming and run, often into a wall. So I broke my nose lots of times. Full pelt, bang. But it's hard to do that when you're attached to lots of tubes. So I used to get into lots of trouble, and they put the sides up on the bed, and I'd be clambering over with all these tubes holding me back and doing myself great damage. I didn't know that was PTSD. Eventually, I just had a complete breakdown and I went mad. I lost my mind. What did that look like? Well, it ended up in me. I was living in above shops in a village in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland with the rats and with the windows that didn't close properly in winter. And I would often be found in the streets of that little town in the shops area. And I'd be speaking 1,000 miles an hour and saying the same thing again and again. I was basically a bag lady. Yep, in oversized men's dirty tracky dacks, beanie pulled over my eyes nearly. Typical mad woman. So that was me. I was not medicated. I stayed away from hospitals and the medical fraternity because I knew that if I was medicated, I wouldn't have enough clarity in my mind. I only had a little bit, but I hadn't thought if I'm medicated, I'll lose that and I won't find my way through, because there is a way through. There has to be a way through. And in going through that, I found the way through. People in that community saw me go from mad woman to fine, looking like an empowered person, and they couldn't believe the difference, and they started bringing their loved ones to me. So I started stepping them through what I had put myself through, and they became well as a result of that. And then more people came and more people came. And then I wondered if it was just because of what I'd been through that I was able to do this. So then I thought, if I teach someone and they can do it, well, maybe there's something in this. And I did. I looked for someone who was not the most sensitive blade of grass in the paddock and had never been traumatized, and they were getting the same results as me. So I could see that it worked. But getting back to trauma, which I know so well, and PTSD, and why am I picking on rage? Because it's something that's so dear to my heart. Why is that? Because with that rage, it impacts the people around us. Who are the people around us? The people we love. And there's the guilt. We're impacting those people that we love. The other element of rage that's more outward directed is more of a danger to ourselves. There's a rage where we rage against injustice, because as humans we have an innate need for justice, and when we have been so unjustly done by, there's something that happens in us where we demand justice. And what happens with that extreme PTSD? Let me tell you a little story. I was living in this place above the shops, and it was next to a little park. And in the early hours of one morning, there was a fracas in the park, a disturbance. And I looked out the window, and there was a group of young men there. And it was very obvious they were about to beat the life out of this younger man. So I turned on all the lights so that they'd know that someone was watching. I opened a window and leaned out so they could see. And the gang leader came over. You effing, I'll see. What are you going to do about it? 0 to 1,000 in a nanosecond. I had grabbed my weighted walking stick at the door, which had a very handy handle that was very good for grabbing people, pushing people into the neck. And I was down, and I had that young man pinned to a post before you could wink. And there is a psychotic rage that you get, you know. Sure, you're aware of it. And I yelled at this young man, "Run, I've got this." And there's nothing so terrifying, I have discovered, as a mad person who has no fear and who has tapped into that psychotic rage. And apparently there's nothing quite so scary as a granny that's doing that. So I chased these young men around the park and chased them off and went back upstairs. You know. That was a really stupid thing to do. Really stupid thing to do. But I used to do things like that. And that's what happens. You know, if someone's with has PTSD and someone pushes in and bullies in traffic, watch out. Watch out, because the frontal lobe shuts down and we are in rage and there's no stopping it. Now, let me tell you why anger management doesn't cut it with PTSD at this level. Who here, can you just type in, if you do anger management, can you please type it in? I can't hear you. Some people are saying I can't hear you. If you can hear me, can you once again put in yes, I can hear you? Yes, yes. Can hear, yes, can hear. So there are a few people who are having problems at their end. Right, and so now I've lost the anger management people. Can you put in again, yes, anger management? Thank you for your engagement. Yes, I do anger management. Teresa, thank you. Christine Simpson, thank you. Loretta, Peter Nordink, yes, thank you. And some people saying, yes, I have the rage. Lots of people are doing anger management. Okay. So let me just take you through why anger management doesn't work. Is there any therapist here who has PTSD or has experienced PTSD? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Good. No, yes. That's great. And as we say, as I said, it's a spectrum from just mild PTSD to over the top, off the charts. So let's go back to that, what I was about to explain, which was, why doesn't anger management cut it? Why is it that we sit in front of somebody, having given them strategies to deal with anger management, you know, notice your body, notice the tension in your fists and your jaw. Notice that you're starting to come into that heightened space. They sit in front of us and we just think they're non-compliant because they haven't done any of it. It hasn't worked. And sometimes, let's face it, we get cross with them. We get frustrated. I'm giving you all these tools and you're not using them. Why? So let's just understand what happens with PTSD. It's not normal anger. It's not the slow burn of resentment or irritation or frustration. It's 0 to 1,000 miles an hour like that. It's like throwing a lit match at petrol and that's what happens. Let me just give you some sense of what it's like. Let's just do an imagination exercise here. Okay. So take a slow, deep breath and hold it. And breathe out really slowly. And just close your eyes down. No one's looking. Take a slower, deeper breath and hold it. And breathe out really slowly because this slows down the heart rate. You've had a busy day. Slows down the brainwaves. Allows us to imagine more fully. Take one more slow, deep breath. And breathe out really, really slowly. Good. And just breathe normally. And just imagine. It's a Saturday afternoon in a normal little family household. Everyone's in the open plan kitchen, dining room, lounge room area. The kids are doing what kids do, just playing. Cat and the dog are there. Mum's doing her thing. Dad's doing his thing. Mum just makes some little comment in passing to Dad. And bang! That lit match has been thrown at petrol. He didn't mean to, but bang, he has gone into absolute rage. What does he do? He dissociates. And it's like he's watching a slow-moving train wreck. And he comes to. He regains consciousness. He comes back to himself, to the scene where the children are under the table. His wife's in front of the children, between him and the children with her hands out to protect the children. The cat and the dog are under the lounge chairs. And he comes to the scene where everyone is shaking in terror because of him. What does he feel? An absolute failure. The people he loves with all his heart are terrified of him. He has wounded them. What does he feel? Immense shame, immense guilt. The guilt that goes with that is just soul destroying, and it builds up and it festers. And it becomes more than we can bear. And so what do? We start thinking that the most responsible thing, the most loving thing we can do for our family is to commit suicide, to take ourselves out. And we try to distance ourselves emotionally, physically from our family as much as possible so that they're not impacted because we don't have any control. We don't know when it's going to strike. We don't want it to strike. We don't want it. But it won't let us go. Lots of us do lots of things to try and control it. Alcohol, drugs, whatever. Pharmaceuticals. Doesn't cut it. Now, picture the man, just imagine that man's face as he comes to, as he becomes conscious and realizes what he's done. And now change that face to a woman's face. Statistically, there are more women than men with PTSD. And there's her husband who has the 3-year-old behind him by the hand, because the 3-year-old's just done something and the mother has reacted like that and has nearly really hurt that child. And she sees herself as a monster. Now take a breath and open your eyes have a little stretch. That's the reality of rage with full-blown PTSD. And no anger management technique will touch it. And you try and teach these people, or even me, I used to try and do mindfulness. You know, I heard it was a helpful thing. When you're hanging from the ceiling by your fingernails all the time, where every muscle is so tense that even your hair hurts. When you are so wound up, where your heart races and you sweat most of the time, it's almost impossible to do mindfulness or to meditate because it's not safe to do so. And your unconscious mind will keep you safe. Let's talk about the mind. Some have seen this before, but let's do it again. Just getting a piece of paper. Let's go back to, just cutting back just a second before we go to that. In the Western world, we've been taught as psychologists, psychotherapists, etc., social workers, to think of behavior as voluntary, of having intention and being learned. But lots of our responses, especially when we're in this stuck space of fight, flight, freeze, it's an adaptive unconscious survival mechanism. It's unconscious. We have no control over it whatsoever. No matter what our conscious intention, we can't control it. So let's look at the mind. Let's say this is the mind. There's the conscious mind. And there's the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind wants to be in control, doesn't want to be in rage. But the unconscious mind hijacks, and the conscious mind can do nothing because the conscious mind is very powerless. Let's talk about the physiology of trauma. What happens? And I know a few people have seen this before, but it's worth going over again, and some have never seen it. So bear with me. Let's talk about a normal person, if such a being exists. A normal person lives down here at calm. They go along, they have a stressful event, they release enough stress hormones to deal with that event. But then, now here's the key, they self-regulate. They bring themselves back to calm. They have a life-threatening event, they go up here to fight, flight, freeze. They release all sorts of stress hormones in great quantity. The event passes and they self-regulate. That's key. And then they go on, and that's the story of their life. What happens, however, when we get stuck in PTSD is we have the events and we never come down. Anything vaguely related to that initial event, we trigger again to fight, flight, freeze. But that's just a part of it. Some people don't live there, they live here, off the charts, and some people live just under here. It's a spectrum. It's the spectrum of PTSD. So why do people get stuck up in there? Well, let me explain it. The stuff of life builds up, the distress of life builds up, like in a balloon. All right, and then we can have a catastrophic event. And that balloon bulges out, it pops out, and we go into PTSD. It's a funny thing, but they've done studies like 2 twins going to war. One twin comes back with PTSD and the other doesn't. Why? Because the twin that went into PTSD already had more distress, had been through more distress, otherwise known as trauma, before they went to war. The other had enough room to move. So they didn't blow out, they were able to come back and manage that. So that's why. So what actually happens in a really dreadful event? Let's say, I don't know, Black Saturday bushfires or something. What happens is at the time of the terrible event, and it's normally an event where the person is helpless. They can do nothing. They think they're about to die and they can do nothing about it. They're powerless. So that's the sort of event that causes PTSD. So they're in the event, they release stress hormones, of course, adrenaline, cortisol, all of that. And when they produce enough of it, and when the balloon already has enough distress in it, and they produce enough of these stress hormones, the hippocampus, the librarian of the brain, the one that puts the event, once it's over, puts that event in the right manila folder, in the right file, in the right filing cabinet, that part of the brain, the hippocampus, the librarian, shuts down, goes, no. It gets overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed. It gets overwhelmed. Of course it does. So what happens? That event is never put to an end. We never get to a point of it's over. It's not put away as a normal memory in the right filing cabinet. No. Instead, it's stored in the unconscious. It's not in the warehouse of memory. No. It's stored in the unconscious, like a videotape loop. It's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now. I'm about to die now. The fire's coming now. I'm about to die now. The tank's been hit now. I'm about to die. I'm about to die. Whatever it is. He's coming at me with a knife. I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I'm about to die. And that continues to run in our unconscious. Consciously, we're not aware of it until it breaks through. Sometimes it breaks through from the unconscious into the conscious mind in the form of flashbacks. But it's there all the time. It's only in the flashback that we become consciously aware of it. The rest of the time, we're not consciously aware of it, no. We're just aware that our body, our whole being is screaming, I'm not safe, so I can't be near an open door. I can't drive in traffic. I can't be in a crowd. I can't be in a confined space. I can't sleep. I always have to have my back to a wall. I always have to know I can't go up steps if there's someone behind me because my whole being is screaming, I'm not safe, and it's exhausting. And what happens? We quickly trigger into that rage. And it's a bugger of a thing. And that rage is like a solar flare, usually aimed at someone close to us. Our partner, our children, our dog, whatever, the people we love. And when that happens, we go into extraordinary guilt, and that guilt and shame grows and grows and grows. And there is such an extraordinarily high suicide rate in people with PTSD, with veterans. Who here works with veterans? Could you just type in veterans? No. With veterans, there's another wound. With veterans, there's a big wound. Because their tribe, thank you, Wendy and Tim. Yes, thanks, Tim. No, you're here. With veterans, there's a bigger wound, and it's a very primal wound because their tribe, the tribe that they depended upon to protect them, the tribe that they put their life on the line to protect, because they're not in a battle to protect Australia. They're in a battle to protect their comrade next to them on this side and that side, their tribe member. They will do whatever is required. They will carry the load for their tribe. And then they get knocked out with PTSD. And their tribe banishes them. Their tribe kicks them in the guts and banishes them and sends them out into the wilderness. Their tribe betrays them. Those who they trusted betray them. And that's a really deep moral wound. That causes rage too, because it's so unjust, and as humans we demand justice. There's something about us that does that. So, rage with PTSD. It's one of the most debilitating aspects, the worst symptom, because it doesn't just impact us. Our nightmares we can sort of keep to ourselves, except for our partner, who's probably not in the bed with us because we lash out or we jump up and run into walls like I used to do. And that is the worst aspect of PTSD, and that causes the guilt, which so often becomes self-harm. People try and shut themselves down with self-harm, of self-medication, its various guises, or suicide. So many veterans kill themselves. So many people. The highest cause of death in 14 to 44-year-olds in Australia is suicide. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? We don't deal with the symptom. We go to the root, which is that videotape loop in the unconscious, and we stop that. Van der Kolk, Levine, Ogden, all the top trauma experts say the same things in regard to how on earth do we resolve what many are still being told is unresolvable. A GP that I have taught, she's one of my graduates, she rang me up recently and said, will you hurry up? I said, what? Hurry up what? She said, hurry up and get this work out into the world, because I've just been to 2 days of PD for GPs, being told once again that there is no cure for PTSD. People just have to learn to live with the symptoms. People are still being told that, and it's not true. How do I know? Because I've taught 200 people around Australia, and they're doing it every day. But 2 things have to happen to resolve trauma. What are those? We have to move the client to a place of being empowered in relation to the event. Because what happens is the event has power over us. In that event, we were powerless. We were at risk of death, and we were powerless. And just remember that many, many households are war zones. Soldiers, yes. Emergency service workers, yes. Households, yes. Why? Why? Because hurt people, and it's not just men. Women hurt their men too. I've had men with knives through their abdomen. I've had a man whose partner poured boiling water over his head while he slept. I mean, women do it too. It's not just men. But hurt people, except for those really evil individuals. And I've met them, looked them in the eye, and there aren't many of them. Generally, it's hurt people who hurt people. I used to specialize in violent, angry men brought against their will, who'd been under house arrest by the men in their family for several days until they came to me. They just wanted to go and kill their ex, the new boyfriend, and the children. They didn't even want to be sitting in front of me. They'd sit there shaking and sweating with rage. And yeah, you effing see, old granny, what are you going to do? And within 2 hours, they'd be safe. They still keep in touch with me. They'd be safe, and everybody in their world would be safe. And they're not hurt anymore, so they don't hurt anybody anymore. It's not rocket science. Take away their hurt, you stop the cycle. So, 1, move the person to a place of empowerment in regard to what happened, so they're back in control. 2, tell the body it's over. And I go further and I say the body and the unconscious. I know you can call it the subconscious if you like. I call it the unconscious. It's over. But more than that, and this is the key, I'm safe now. And there's a difference. I know some of you have done this exercise before, but let's do it again. There's a difference between it's over and then I'm safe now. So just humor me for a moment. Take a deep breath and say from your guts, it's over. Say it with me. You ready? It's over. And notice what happens in your body. Feel into it. Say it again and feel into it. It's over. Now say, it's over and I'm safe now. With me. It's over and I'm safe now. And feel that. Let's do it again with me. It's over and I'm safe now. And feel the resolution. What we do with TRTP, this process I developed, is we bring people from up here with that fight, flight, freeze, up here or up here, where the whole being is screaming, I'm not safe. We bring them down here to calm, where everything in their entire being knows it's over and I'm safe now. So that's what we do. How do we do it? We move the person to a place of empowerment in regard to what happened, and then tell the body and the unconscious it's over and I'm safe now. Why do we tell the unconscious? Because it's in the unconscious that videotape loop is stored. Once the body and the unconscious knows it's over, the hippocampus clicks into gear. And it's like a factory reboot on the phone, if you've ever done that. And the hippocampus clicks into gear, makes it a memory, and the whole being returns to calm. The Parkinson's like tremors disappear, the nightmares disappear, the rage disappears, the gut problems disappear, the headaches disappear, and the person is returned to calm. How do we do it? By speaking to the unconscious in the language of the unconscious, which is the imagination. So the first thing we do is to change those unconscious core beliefs that were branded on, that became the foundation of our life, like mine. I deserve to suffer. I deserve to be punished. All of those things. First of all, we do that because if the person has those programs and you're trying to make them, help them be well, they won't be well because they don't deserve to be well. Yeah. So we do that first to clear the slate so that then we can go ahead without self-sabotage, because it's the unconscious that sabotages. And then in the second session, the rubber hits the road. That's where we move the person to empowerment in regard to what happened and tell the whole being it's over and you're safe now and you know it. There's no re-traumatizing. We don't go back. We don't get the story. We have the person do homework, a list of the top 10 to 12 most distressing events in their life, the age they were, who was there, and the name of the event. Because get this really, really clear. It's not just the event. It's not just the bushfires. It's not just the soldier losing his mates around him. It's not the husband beating the 3-year-old in the face in front of the wife. It's not those things. It's not being stabbed. They're the thing that make it blow out. It's the distress of life from even before we're born that builds up and up like the pressure in a balloon. And then if we have a catastrophic event, we blow out into PTSD and the comorbidities that go with that. We blow out into PTSD and chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, lupus, etc., etc. And these can all be resolved. So, what did we talk about today? We talked about how the rage of PTSD is different. It's not the slow burn of resentment, the slow burn of frustration, the slow burn of irritation. We're talking about a different animal here. We're talking about a lit match at petrol It's like a solar flare that comes out of nowhere and destroys anything in front of it. And unfortunately, it's usually our loved ones. And then there's the rage of putting ourselves at risk and standing up for others, fighting injustice. So anger management doesn't cut it. The client who sits in front of you with PTSD is not non-compliant. They are doing their absolute best. But what has happened is they're working from an instinctive response that was built into us eons ago. And unfortunately, they're stuck in that response. So we have to do something different. Because people who are in this, and they walk away from anger management and say, there's no hope for me, so I may as well go and top myself now. Doesn't work. There's something wrong with me. I'm intrinsically flawed. There is no hope. The best thing I can do for my family, in all my guilt, in all my shame, is to commit suicide or to leave them and drink or drug myself to death. So there we are. It is now just over the 40 minutes. Let's open the floor to questions. So if you have a question, just type it in. Karen, sad as we've just experienced that with a man murdering a strange wife. Yeah. It happens more and more and more. And that's why I used to specialize in violent, angry men brought against their will, because I wanted to stop the cycle. Now I'm spending more time teaching and seeing just 1 or 2 new clients a week. So yes, I am still seeing clients. And there are a lot of therapists who are therapists because of their own pain. Don't we go into it? I am here because of what I went through. Aren't we all here because of what we've been through, and we want to help others? So, yeah. Annalisa, you mentioned people with certain backgrounds are more likely to suffer from PTSD than others. Can you clarify? Well, when we have lots of distress growing up, if we're in an abusive family, for example, and then something bad really happens, the pressure in the balloon is already there. We have no resilience, and we'll blow out into PTSD. If we take away the word trauma and say distressing events, if we grow up with lots of distressing events as a child, as a teenager, we get to a point where there's no resilience there. There's no space left. For some people, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and they'll go into anxiety. Because let's just look at this. Anxiety is the same thing. I'm not safe. It's just that it's not up there. It's down here. You know, it can be here, peaking with panic attacks, or it can be here with generalized anxiety. It's all the same thing. It's all the spectrum. Even depression, which is down here, which is stuck in the freeze reflex. It's all the same thing. I'm not safe. It's just that PTSD is higher up here. It's a spectrum. It's all the same thing. Anxiety is not the issue. It's what happened that left the person feeling, I'm not safe. Bring them back to I'm safe. It's over. The anxiety disappears. The depression disappears. The PTSD disappears. How many sessions with PTSD sufferers? Generally 3, Lynette. In the first session, we change the unconscious core beliefs around helping, so that there'll be no sabotage going into the second session. In the second session, the rubber hits the road. The second session is where we use the imagination to move the person to an empowered position in regard to what happened, instead of the other way around. And then we tell the unconscious and the body, it's over, you're safe now. So every part of you that has anything to do with that can now return to calm. Those brought against their will, how do you step over that resistance to begin with? That's a long story, Karen. They would come in, they would be sitting there sweating with rage and pissed off. They didn't want to be there. You freaking old nanny, see, blah, blah, blah. And I would do a tea. Like that. And I'd say, you are here at a crossroads. You have a decision to make. And I'm going to swear here, people, but that's the language that these people understand. You're here. You think you're fucked now. This is nothing. There's a world of pain coming right for your head, sonny. You won't know which way's up. By making no decision, you end up here, more fucked than you could ever imagine. Or you can take this opportunity today and choose fan-fucking-tastic. Because that's what I do. I can take you by the hand and I can lead you to there. But it's your decision. Your decision. If you want to stay fucked, that's fine. My life will go on exactly as brilliantly as it has before. You won't even be in the papers because you know what? You're not that fucking important. Make a decision. I don't give a rat's what it is. Just make a decision. It's time. Be fucked. I don't care. I'm going to go and have a pee. And I'd walk out. What did I do? They've got a neural superhighway in their brain. I'm going to go and kill people. I'm going to go and kill her. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to fucking kill her. I'm going to kill her. That neural superhighway has to be interrupted. How do you interrupt it? By shock and confusion. He was expecting a counsellor to be, oh, there. You know, these are all the reasons why I shouldn't do that. No. I shocked and confused by saying, I don't care. Be fucked. I don't care. Or choose fan-fucking-tastic. I'm going to pee. What? I'd come back. Body language difference. I don't want this pain. Can you help me? Then I'd take them by the hands, heart to heart, soul to soul. Yes, I've got you. And you're safe. You do as I say, when I say, and I will lead you to fan-fucking-tastic. But you have so much as a sneer and you're out of here, I'm busy. What do you reckon? So that's how I would get them on here. Do people always believe you when you say that it's over and I'm safe now? Can you elaborate? I can't really, Christine Kipps. I can't really elaborate now because I'd have to go through the whole process with you. And much as I'd love to do that, time doesn't permit. And the other thing is, you know what? A little bit of information can be a dangerous thing because we get in people's heads and we don't want to re-traumatize. So it's really in the training. Sorry, how do you empower the person over the event? We use the imagination. And like I said, a little bit of information can be a dangerous thing. So I am terribly sorry. And it'd take too long to teach it to you in a way that you would understand it enough so that you could do no harm. How long are the sessions? Generally an hour and a half to 2 hours, Teresa. Usually a week apart. Fadia, we can't see. Oh no, Fadia, that's your internet. That's the problem. You can't see me moving. As a guy, I really love the tea from the Tough Love Granny. Yeah, that's right. We do that with lots of clients. That's really the first step. For some people, like a little old lady, we'd say, do you want to be not well or well? But for a lot of people, look, you know, I'm looking at your homework. You're pretty fucked. What do you want? Fucked or fan-fucking-tastic? Make a decision. It begins with a decision. Some people get cross. Do you think I'm here, aren't I? You think I want to be like this? Now, don't get distressed. But this healing starts with a conscious decision. Make a decision. It's your decision. And then the next question we ask is, what will be the worst thing about this? And this is something you can use with your clients. Straight away, what will be the worst thing about being fan-freaking-tastic? As if there's going to be a worse thing. I want to be well. Yeah. Just calm down. But what will be the worst thing? When I realized that my madness was actually keeping me safe and my dreadfully unwell body was keeping me safe, I'd lost a lot of my insides, including a lot of my bowel. And just between you and me, I was almost entirely fecally incontinent, which is not socially acceptable. My body was doing that so I wouldn't go out. If I had to go to the shops, I'd fast for 3 days. If I had to go anywhere, I'd fast for 3 days. It's amazing how the unconscious keeps us safe at home in pain or in anxiety or whatever, to keep us safe, because that's its job. And so what we're doing is we're trying to find the secondary gains right at the beginning. Like one woman said, well, if I get well, my husband will leave me. Why? Because he's only come back because I'm so unwell. Okay, we'll make a decision. Do you want to be well or do you want your husband? She said, I want my husband. I said, okay, here's your money back. Sorry. It's not going to work because you want your husband. And if you get well, you'll lose your husband. So it's a double bind. It's not going to happen. So, yes, tough love, Granny, yes. Tough love. It's something that we've lost because we're so bloody politically correct, aren't we? And there's power in that. You know, to interrupt a neural superhighway of I'll never get better or whatever it is with confusion and shock. Do you find the people that do their homework? Absolutely, they do their homework. Absolutely, they do their homework. And the thing is, a lot of people get ahas with that homework. They go, oh my God, it's the same pattern. Abandonment by my dad, abandonment, 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 bullying, abandonment, bullying, abandonment. Oh my God, it's the pattern. It's the same thing again and again. Some people have huge ahas with the homework. And yes, every single person does their homework unless they're in such a fragile, distressed state. And they're very, very suicidal. If someone's suicidal, they're not going to stop and do their homework. So, of course, if someone's suicidal, no, we see them as soon as possible and get them quickly to a place where they're okay, and then they do their homework. Some people identify with their trauma and who they are and are resistant. Some people do, particularly, may I say, one particular group is the Vietnam veterans. When things happen to a group, there's often resistance there. For example, I worked with some Black Saturday bushfire people, and I said, don't go into this with your eyes closed. Because if you get well, it may put strains on your marriage because your husband is choosing to stay in PTSD and trauma. And your small community may reject you because they want to stay in their trauma and you're getting well. So think about it. And she did. She said, I want to get well no matter what. And with veterans, particularly Vietnam veterans, it's a matter of, yes, they wear their trauma proudly as a badge. And if they leave their tribe, that's their tribe. So they may be rejected, etc. Shit, mate, you deserve your peace. Thanks, Lynette. Being real though, yes. How did you discover and learn these insights during your recovery? Okay. I used to get these avalanches of memory, you might say, when I was mad, otherwise known as flashbacks. And I'd wake up. I wouldn't wake up. I'd come back to consciousness in the corner, having shat myself and peed and vomited everywhere with my top off and in my mouth so that the people in the shops downstairs wouldn't be disturbed and so that no one could call an ambulance. And these animal noises, these animal howls would come up through me, these otherworldly sounds would come out of me. So I had to keep that towel or the shirt stuck in there. And then I figured out a way to stop the flashbacks using my imagination. So that's what I did. I used to stay up at night. I used to pace so that the strong me wouldn't kill the weak me. Because I thought if I won't go to sleep, she'll kill me. And I used to be, every night I'd stand on a chair with a noose around my neck and try to make up a reason why not to do it tonight. Usually I'd find a reason. Once I rang Lifeline at 2 o'clock in the morning and asked them to find me a reason, but this woman was so distressed. This dear woman, I said, you poor darling, go home to bed. She kept wanting to call an ambulance. So it was just through my own stuff, Rob. I read a few books, like I had this pain in my body. I used to call it my falling down pain because I'd fall down with it. And I'd read, someone gave me a book, Babette Rothschild, The Body Remembers. And I was on the floor. I remember the lino under my face. And when this would happen, I wouldn't be able to breathe. And this spasm of pain it was unbearable. It was very embarrassing if it happened in a supermarket. But I was at home and I looked up and I could see the lush green of Mullaney where I was living. And where everything happened was in Perth. And it's a grey green there. I thought, maybe this is just a memory. So I looked out the window and I said to my body, and I held my body and I said, you're not in Perth. You're in Mullaney. Look at the tropical vegetation. This pain is just a memory. It's just a memory. You're safe now. He's not here. He's safe now. There's no knife. There's no knife in you. It's safe. That's just a memory. You're in Queensland. You're not in Western Australia. You're safe now. And within minutes, that pain went away. And you know what? It's never come back. It's extraordinary. And some people who've been in car accidents, who've been in surgery, or have had dreadful things happen to them are stuck with their body thinking it's happening now, as mine was. It got to the point where I couldn't walk for 2 years. My son used to take me around in a wheelbarrow. But can you use the same technique to resolve rage and guilt with those who have experienced physical traumas? Oh, yes, absolutely. Zainab, is that the way to say your name? You can use these same techniques to resolve rage and guilt with those who have experienced physical traumas such as workplace injuries. A note on that. Wait till the insurance payout has gone through. Because if you try and do it and there's a big insurance payout coming, there'll be secondary benefits and they won't go there. Their unconscious will keep them safe because they deserve that benefit. They've been through enough. So do it after the payout. Will this be useful for people close to murdered mother, friends, family? Absolutely. Karen, sorry, I'll say that question because people that can't see it. Will this be useful for people close to a murdered mother, friends, family, and colleagues? Yes. In a word, absolutely. Do you believe visualization is the key? Wendy de Graaf, no. I'm not talking about visualization. So there's the thing. Visualization is just visualizing it. Imagination is living it. Some people can't visualize, but they can live it. They can sense it. They can be it. So it's not visualization. It's actual rich experience, smell, experience of it. It is not visualization. No, there's a difference, Wendy. Is that clear? Do people get that? Just type in yes if you get that. There's a difference between visualization and imagined lived experience. Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Thanks, Wendy. That makes more sense. Yeah. It's a big difference because some people can't visualize to save themselves. They're not visual. Teresa, not really. Okay. Just think about it for a while. You'll get it. Yes. All right. It's nearly time to stop. Thank you, Peter. I've been asked if I can assist someone who has witnessed a colleague being dismembered in an agricultural accident. Yes, 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 yes. And a parent whose child has suicided. Yes, yes, yes. Part of this process, I have psychiatrists refer to me people in catatonic grief who haven't moved for 5 years. And the grief process that I've created is so gentle and such a privilege to step someone through. It's so beautiful, and at the other side of that, there is no grief. So on that note, if there's any other questions that you have, I will go back through this afterwards. How long have I been doing this work? I've been teaching this work, Sylvia, since 2014, July 2014. I've taught about 200. Time to stop. Sorry, no more time, but if you've asked a question I haven't answered it, I will go back through and I'll be in touch with you and answer. Oh, the other thing is, some people are asking about the training here. Go to the Richards Trauma Process. Sorry, some people are asking about the training. Go to this website, the Richards Trauma Process. I know it's a mouthful. Go to the training page and there'll be all the information there that you need. And you can click on a button and make an appointment for someone to call you about it. Or you can go to the contact page and send them your message, therichards.traumaprocess.com. The next course will be in October. Admissions are open at the moment. We're taking people right now for the October course. richardstraumaprocess.com. Go to the training page or send a message through the back page if this calls you, because we have to do something different. There's a tsunami of pain coming at us. A tsunami of pain. And now what we have doesn't cut it, people. I'm sorry, but too many people are dying. Too many people are being told that PTSD is unfixable. And please don't talk to me about exposure therapy. It's cruel. I didn't enjoy it the first time. I'm not going there again. This is safe, gentle, and effective, and there is a solution. If you're compelled to do this, come and join us in our TRTP practitioner community, because we have an extraordinary, vibrant community. It's our tribe. It's more than that. It's our community. It's our tribe. It will become a revolution. Join us. Let's change how mental health is done. Let's make it safe, effective, and fast, just because we can. Thank you. Good evening. Have a great night. If you have any further questions, get in touch. Thank you.